welcome to an exceptional episode of We Only Look Thin. I am Katherine Weigel. I have made many exceptions, and I have lost.
I see what you did there.
Like, why are you saying that? I lost weight once, and I'd like to do it again. And with me today is
Donald Weigel, and I would like to think that all of our episodes are exceptional. I know that's not what you were trying to do. I also lost weight once, and we're here to talk about it.
We sure are. So we have done, Donald was looking back in our log. We've done over 240 episodes, which is cuckoo bananas.
I was looking for some episodes that were related to the topic we're talking about in this episode, and I found a couple that I completely forgot that we had.
We even did an episode. We did an episode called Pity Party, and I was thinking, we should do an episode called Pity Party.
Exactly.
It was already done, and I don't even remember it. So we're going to talk about forgetting things, including canaries and habits, and
I think we're oftentimes worried that we're saying things that we've already said before, and then I have forgotten.
Yeah,
we, the creators of the content, have forgotten the episode. So I'm sure that listeners don't remember everything we've said over the last 243 episodes.
Yeah,
so if we have to repeat a few things, maybe it's not such a bad idea.
Well, but I'm always afraid that people go, well, I've already heard that, but I don't remember what I listened to yesterday on other podcasts. So I'm going to take my ability or my short-term memory loss, long-term memory loss, and we've turned it into an episode.
Yes.
And we did an episode a number of years ago, which is strange to say now.
It really is.
Called Sumspringa.
Oh, yeah.
Sumspringa. We take you to the fine countrysides of this great country. And we're talking about the Amish kids who take a little break from their habits. No, they don't have habits.
Sure, they have habits. They have
they take a little break and hang out with the English and decide whether or not they want to return to the flock.
Yeah, and look, there's lots of opinions about how exaggerated the Rumspringa is in society, but look, this is a weight loss and fitness podcast with some comedy thrown in, and so if you want to write us an angry letter about how we're misusing Rumspringa,
yeah, it's fine.
It's fine. Go ahead.
It's fine. You'll be hearing from our attorneys now. I don't know. Do we have attorneys?
No.
So we talk about Rumspringas, but the thing is, Rumspringas are planned. I believe that it's okay, now we're going to do this, and it's a Rumspringa,
yeah.
And then you decide and you come back. But this summer, I may or may not have taken an accidental Sumspringa or rum summer.
Yeah.
I don't know how that works, but I didn't intend on falling off track, but I did it anyway.
Yeah, and look, I don't want to step on Catherine's punchline here, but I think that people have an idea that you get to a certain point in your weight loss and fitness journey, and then you're just on cruise control.
Yeah.
And you can just it's smooth sailing, and it's going to be this way forever and ever. And, we have been doing this now, started, at this particular journey venture, started trying to lose weight almost 7 years ago. 6.5 years ago. And now have been maintaining my weight for now 4 or 5 years. And, you would think that it would just be easy at this point, and that things would be smooth. But it turns out, even for those as accomplished as us in this, life comes up and things happen. And it's not just, a smooth sail straight line, even now.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, when I started out in, listening to health and weight loss mindset podcasts, I remember one particular host talking about, having a setback or having a binge or, falling off track and gaining. And
yeah.
What are you talking about? You have a podcast and you've been doing this for 5 years. How does that even happen? Aren't you just fixed at that point? And that was at the beginning of this journey venture. And I know from the beginning, Donald and I have talked about not being fixed. And, this is just a continual process. But I think one of the things that I heard back in the days of yore, was only do habits or only have a plan that you can do forever that is sustainable.
Yeah.
And I'd like to qualify that with things that you can do forever in the current season of life you're in.
Right.
Because it's not just like, oh my gosh, I thought I could track calories forever and now I'm not. So obviously that wasn't the right thing for me. It's given the circumstances you're in, can you keep it up? If you are a walker, and walk every day and then twist your ankle and you can't walk, it doesn't mean that your journey is over. It means you have the opportunity to adapt and adjust what you're doing to fit that season.
And conversely, things will come up like, I know this is going to sound strange, but when the pandemic hit and we were stuck inside for as long as we were, I had nothing else like great to do except exercise.
Well, what else am I going to do?
And so I was exercising a lot, like every day for weeks and weeks and weeks. And then, I got into, one of the best shapes of my whole life a couple of years ago in 2020. And then I went back to work and things, slowly over time got back to normal. And I am not there now. Life has crept in. I am still engaging in fitness. I am still engaging in my eating plan, but I'm nowhere near in the kind of shape I was in when I had those, couple of months basically to just exercise and focus on what I was eating.
Yeah. So we're going to, I know we've already talked about things, but we're going to talk about my summer in particular.
Yeah.
It was different than Donald's summer. A little bit of a setback, some weight gains, but then we're not just going to leave you with that bummer summer situation.
No, this is a hopeful episode.
It is. And we're going to end with some ideas, if you are experiencing this too in this season, of ways to get back on track that aren't overwhelming. Because sometimes we can think that we need to go back to the extremes of like, okay, well, the 2020 version of Donald was at his prime. Let's go immediately back there. We're not going to jump that big ravine.
No.
Like, we're not going to do...
No, this is not an Evil Knievel. Yeah, jumping the Grand Canyon or whatever that situation was.
Yeah, it's not even Fonzie jumping a shark.
No.
It's not. So anyway, I'm going to talk about my summer. Are we ready to talk about my summer?
Yes, let's do this.
Hey, everybody. So we've talked about before that idea that our perfect future, our perfect habits are in the future after something has happened.
Right.
Once the pandemic is over, then I can focus on it. Once our daughter is back in school, then I'll have time. Once our daughter is out of school, then I'll have time.
Right.
And
it's always like after this big project at work is done, then I can focus on X, Y, or Z thing. Then I'll get back there. Like, once I just get through this one thing, then everything will be okay and I'll be able to get going.
Once Donald's back at work, once this, project is done, whatever. And we did an episode called Winter is Coming.
Yeah.
It was 200 episodes ago or something like that, talking about like something is going to come up. Something, you don't know what it's going to be. We did not know that there was going to be a pandemic, but there's always something in the future that sort of X, factor X that comes in that we don't know what it is, but we can expect it. And if we think that everything is going to be smooth sailing, I'll tell you, mister, you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah. And look, it's really sort of shocking how easily thrown off I am by just having to, not having like 100% access to my routine.
Yeah.
Like as long as I can do my daily routine, I'm fine. All of my habits lock into place. I can do them fine. But as soon as I have to, go to work extra late or sleep in a different place, it really throws me off and I really have to adjust those things on the fly.
Yeah. So at the end of the school year, I did not go to school, but I took someone to school. It was very stressful.
Yeah.
It was maybe, after home learning for 2 years, going back to school really hit me hard. And I thought to myself, let's just wait for summer break and then I'll have an opportunity to unwind, chill out. I won't, be as anxiety ridden as I am. I'll get back to my habits. And then 2 days into summer break, Donald got COVID.
Yeah, it was a good time.
And I'm acting like it happened to me. It happened to Donald, which was his own bummer. I don't.
No,
was it a bummer?
It was. I was miserable. Look, I don't want to go down the COVID rabbit hole, but I've talked to lots of people who have had it, and they're like, "Oh, it was just a mild cold." It wrecked me. Like I was destroyed for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. So what we thought we were going to do, we had planned a little getaway. I was helping care for Donald for a couple of weeks, and I let my habits slip, and it wasn't that big of a deal, but it was like, oh, I'm not going to track. Oh, we're staying home. I'm not getting out as much. I'm just making sure he's okay. And then he felt better. So that was, but that was just one blip. It's a blip. It's one nautical, I don't know how nautical people do things.
Yeah, no one does.
No one does. But
I just wanted to say, like, I know this is me sort of patting myself on the back, but I was very proud of how I adjusted. I couldn't exercise at all for a couple of weeks, so I basically I reduced my calories, and I really stuck to it, and I was very proud of myself. And then much less dramatic things happened that really threw me off of my routine. But here, you continue.
Well, but like you were stuck in the bedroom. We were definitely doing the like stay away, close the door.
Yeah.
Like we didn't basically see each other for 2 weeks, and would just talk on the phone every once in a while and be like, "Hey, what are you doing?"
Yeah, exactly.
But so that threw me off a little bit. And when you go off course 1 degree, there we go. I'll say it. It's like, oh, it's 1 degree. I'll course correct.
You do know something about nautical people,
right? Nautical, like the Gorton's fisherman.
Yes. the famous
He's
nautical
basically
person.
The Jacques Cousteau of fish. I don't know. Wait, I think Jacques Cousteau was the Jacques Cousteau
The Jacques
of fish.
Cousteau of fish. Yes.
Anyway. Okay. All right. I'm done making analogies. So then I had a week of jury duty, which I actually ended up not going. But that anticipation of like, do I go? Am I not going? Am I going to cook? Whatever. It was just a little off-putting. Then we had a family member come to visit, and they were here for 5 days. And then that threw me off, and it was a birthday, and like, oh, let's go out to eat. What are you going to do with people? Because before we used to just eat with people.
Yeah.
And now I guess that's still what I do is eat with people.
Yeah. It just feels weird. Again, it's like your routine gets thrown off. My routine gets thrown off, and suddenly, I go reeling into madness over my habits.
Okay, so then the day after that person left, our daughter started summer school for 3 weeks, which was then I was just cranky about that and kind of, working overtime and trying to fit everything in. Then we had more family come to visit.
Yeah, and we were, it was supposed to be a 10-day vacation. There were some health issues involved there, which I won't, go into. And it ended up being, about a month. A 10-day vacation turned into a sort of month-long routine disruption. And frankly, again, I apologize. I'm hijacking Catherine's summer story, but I allowed all of it to become an excuse for me to not maintain my fitness goals and to eat, off track. And I let that go on for about a month. And look, I didn't go super cuckoo crazy like I would have done in the past. So I need to be, I need to give myself some grace and understand that I did a much better job of staying on track than I would have in the past. But I still did not stick to the habits that I know I need to maintain my weight loss.
Yeah. And I think I kind of got into a really, and being honest here, I felt a lot of self-pity for myself around
Hence
this.
the pity party title,
party.
Yeah.
But my birthday happened while this sort of derailment happened, and I felt really sorry for myself. Like there was a family situation, and I was happy to manage the situation and be there and do the things. But I also was just like, oh, great. Now the end of the summer, like now I didn't get that relaxing time that I had wanted. And I really went into like, and we'll talk about canary habits, but I had a policy of only drinking on weekends.
Yeah.
And that became like, why don't I just have a cocktail every night to unwind and feel less sorry for myself? And, it's hard to say, but that actually started happening. And then, one cocktail turned into more snacking. And then school started again, and school is back in session. So I am at the point, I didn't actually have access to my scale for a while also. So that was another canary that went fallow. But I ended up gaining about 10 pounds this summer. That's the punchline to all of this, and right now I'm at the weight that I was. I think back in one of the super early episodes where we might not have even had a right to have a podcast after just hitting our weight loss goals as soon after we did.
Yeah.
But I think I said, like, if I ever went over this number, we would have to cancel the podcast.
Right.
Like, I no longer look thin. It's over. Like, we're shutting everything down. And you think that some sort of punishment, like, okay, well, if you go up a pant size, then you're invalid and everything's over and
right.
whatever. And I think I actually even said if I had to buy bigger clothes, I would just wear a wine barrel.
Right.
Like, ha, 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 ha.
Yeah.
And that was the younger me who didn't know anything about anything. I apologize to anyone who might have felt shame. But I am still down 130 pounds.
Right.
But the person who lost 130 pounds I don't feel like that person right now because I'm up on the scale and those habits have eroded. And not that I feel like I'm starting from square one again, because like Donald said before we started the podcast,
yes,
I'm not starting over, but for anyone out there who has experienced some regain, who has lost focus on habits and who feels really down, like, well, it's too late for me. Obviously, if I let these little things, pile up and throw me off track, obviously this isn't what I was meant to do. Or it's just additional proof that I can't get it done.
And, what we're leading to here is that it's not about whether or not we can give up. Because what are we giving up? If we're just going to throw away, all of the progress that we've made. And I think that, I've talked about this on a lot of episodes, and I think that we have this tendency of if we do something one time that goes against the progress that we've made, we throw up our hands and we just give up and we say, well, look, I can't do it. I guess I may as well just do nothing. And we as human beings, if we don't have a perfect solution, we decide to just do nothing. And I have to remind myself all the time, and I try to remind other people all the time, that doing something is still better than doing nothing, even if it's perfect, even if it's not perfect.
Yeah, exactly. And I think so. I did a presentation in Wolt Place, We Only Look Thin Place, our weight loss accountability group, called RIP Canaries.
Yeah.
Many of my canaries, those are habits that you have that are sort of the telltale signs of whether or not you're following your health goals or not.
Yeah, we've done episodes before about canaries in a coal mine. And, they used to send canaries in a coal mine to see if there were toxic fumes down there. And if the canary, survived, then it was safe for the miners to go down. And so we use that metaphor about your habits. Like if you can see the canaries, and if your canaries are alive and well, then your habits are going well. But suddenly, if they're not, then your habits are not alive and well.
Yeah. So whatever aviary I had with a bunch of tweeting birds, it's not looking really good for me right now. There are a lot of birds that need a lot of resuscitation. So when I'm in the middle of a not great season and I've gained weight, it can feel really discouraging. Like how can I even podcast? How am I going to inspire anyone? So like Donald said, there's no giving up on me. There's no, okay, well, obviously we're just going to shut it all down. And what, I'm going to go to the Cheesecake Factory? Like that's not the solution. And I'm not too old and it's not too late. And for anyone out there struggling, we're going to go through sort of the canary situation and the habits and realize that you don't have to do it all immediately right now.
No.
And that idea of, and this came up on the Zoom that I did in Wolt Place, is that, regretting how far you've fallen from your peak, whether it was an injury or, habits got, derailed or a life situation changed, that we can idealize the person that we were 2 years ago. Oh my gosh, 2 years ago, it was so easy. It was effortless. I was staying on track. For me, my step goal was 17,000 steps. I was eating at a deficit. Things were going great. I felt really in control. And a few months of summer, isn't enough to throw off what I hope to be, I hope to live another 30 years. I'm not going to throw it all away because of a few months off track.
Yeah, first of all, I hope it's more than 30 years. And second of all, it's not about one bad day or one bad week or even one bad summer. It is about adjusting and remembering that we have our whole lives. And that's not to say we shouldn't do anything because we have our whole lives, but we don't have to be perfect overnight. And that's getting back to what I was saying earlier. I think that a lot of people think that if they can't wake up and be the perfect person at exercise and the perfect person at making, meal plans, that they just aren't ready to do anything. And, we did an episode a while ago about action builds traction. And it is about doing what you can do right now and then building on it, because you do eventually get momentum and you do eventually build upon these things. And it's like a snowball at the top of a giant mountain. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger and gathers momentum. And before you know it, you're doing a lot more than you thought you were capable of.
Yeah, no, great point, Donald Weigel.
Why, thank you.
I doff my cap. Is that what it's called? I'm capless now.
Yes, please become a cap dother.
Here, guess what, everybody? You don't even know. We're wearing our jammies right now.
What?
We're working from home.
Don't tell them that.
I did brush my hair, though, which doesn't make any sense. But
I like people to picture me in a really well-tailored suit while I'm doing this.
That's definitely to dress for the job that you want.
That's
definitely
right.
Work out in a suit. So I know that this first part of the episode has been a real pep talk, like a super pep squad situation. Tony Robbins bouncing across the stage. Bummer, maybe opposite. But we're going to talk about really focusing on what you can do right now in the season that you're in and meeting yourself where you are. And that starts with taking stock of actually what is going well. Because when you feel like things are going poorly or you're up on the scale, you can discount all of the positive things that are still in place. So what we would ask you to first do is really make a list or just take stock of what things are going well right now. What can you celebrate? What habits are still in place? So even though I'm up on the scale, I'm still wearing my Fitbit. Are you still tracking? What are you doing right now that maybe you're not giving yourself credit for? Are you still eating on smaller plates? Are you still doing your 5 minutes of exercise? So really take pride in the things that are already there. I think we often get to the point where we think about the shoulds, like, well, I should be doing that anyway, so I'm not going to give myself credit for it. Celebrate what you can. Celebrate where you are. So, and this is sort of the next part of it is, what habits have you actually forgotten about? The good thing for writing down all of the canary habits is really taking stock of what might have fallen away, because we do have a constellation of habits that create our healthy lifestyle. It's not just, well, I track, but I'm not losing weight. We do lots of different things to help keep our momentum going.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, going back half a step, I think it's really important to remind yourself of all of the hard things that you're capable of doing and really taking stock of what you are doing well. It really is helpful to remind yourself, like, oh, hey, I really do have a lot going on and I am doing all of these things really well. You know what? I'm probably capable of doing other hard things and I can add something to my list right now.
Yeah, no. And thank you for saying that, because I feel like my boundaries are really strong right now with people, which I think is a great thing. That's something I didn't have 5 years ago. So I can pat myself on the back for that. So I'll go through some of the canary habits that you might have forgotten about, and just mentally just think about the things that, like, oh yeah, I haven't done that in a while. You don't have to say it like I say it, but when was the
but it's better if you do say it in that voice. Yeah.
Okay. So when was the last time you took your measurements, took a full body selfie, let yourself be photographed in a picture without putting a child in front of you.
Yeah.
I've realized.
Or a scarf or a folder or,
my
Catherine,
gosh.
There's all these old pictures of Catherine
Putting
when she
things
was
in
at
front
her
of me.
heaviest, where, she has things, she strategically placed something or someone in front of her.
Yeah. And I actually went to an event with our daughter last weekend, and someone said, "Oh, do you want me to take a picture of you?" And I said, "No." And there was a time at which you couldn't stop me from someone taking a full body picture of me. So that was definitely a canary.
Yeah.
When was the last time you wore jeans? I've been wearing a lot of stretchy clothes this summer. Are your rings tight? When was the last time you went for a walk or went to the gym or used your membership at the yoga or the Zumba or whatever? When was the last time you weighed your portions, tracked calories, listened to this podcast, had a vegetable? There's so many little things that you're like, oh yeah, I kind of stopped listening to helpful podcasts, and oh yeah, I've been snacking,
And listen, the very last thing you want to do is stop listening to this very helpful podcast.
It's not like the ring. We're not listening.
That is the most important habit you have.
Oh my gosh. Do you remember when you were in elementary school, did people send around those chain letters, and people actually kind of thought it was like dark magic or something?
Yeah, well, in the earlier days of the internet, there were all those chain emails like don't break this chain. You will have terrible luck for the rest of eternity if you don't forward this to 17 people.
Oh my gosh. In elementary school, it was just like, set it on fire, at the tetherball court, because it's no good. So.
Yeah, human beings are a superstitious bunch. That is for sure.
Yeah, I'd rather just be stitious.
Yeah.
Just normally stitious.
Just be normally stitious. And then to move on, conversely, think about the unhelpful habits that have snuck back in. The things that maybe you thought at one time that you had conquered.
Yeah.
that have crept back into your life. Like, are you eating at your desk? Are you eating while distracted? Are you taking extra bite, licks, and taste, which we abbreviate as BLT, not the BLT you
sandwich.
Traditionally think of. Yeah, not the sandwich. Are you adding just a dollop or a drizzle, or you're not, really measuring that teaspoon or tablespoon of whatever you're adding to your food? Are you having just one more cookie, cracker, chip? Like, just one more. It's just one more. It's not going to hurt.
Is fine.
Are you forgetting to track things? Are you forgetting to wear your smartwatch? Are you forgetting to weigh yourself on a regular basis? Are you forgetting to measure out your portions of what you're eating? Are you just eyeballing things? Are you eating snacks at times when you didn't used to eat snacks? Are you hitting the snooze button over and over? Are as Catherine mentioned earlier, are you having that weekday glass of wine that, maybe you had a policy like Catherine did or does, where you're only having, one drink on a weekend night, and now suddenly the wine is snuck in? Really look at the habits that have snuck back in and remind yourself oh yeah, and think about, which one of those habits can you remove now? What would be the easiest thing to start with? And then, once you do that, remove another and another and another. And eventually you get back on track.
Yeah. And I think too, and many of these, unfortunately, if this was a Cosmopolitan quiz, Cosmo magazine, many of these would be my downfall. And you realize all of the different ways that we support our positive habits, the little checkpoints along the way that we do that can easily fall apart. And it's sort of like a domino effect. Once you start rationalizing dropping one thing, it becomes easier to drop another. And we are sort of short-sighted, oh, well, it's just this one thing. It's just this one thing. But suddenly you're doing 8 things differently, even if it's just a little habit. And for me, that resulted in weight gain this summer. And it's not, how did this happen? Where's my motivation? What the blah, 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 blah. I don't know. Suddenly,
I don't know.
Look, it's fall.
Where Hotel Transylvania is coming from all of a sudden.
That was a really good movie. The follow-up's not so bueno.
Yeah, the first one is enjoyable. The other one's not as good.
Yeah, but looking at it and being oh yeah, I really let a lot of things slip. And like Donald said, we can think like, okay, I've got to get back to the ideal version, the montage version that just, brushes all of the bad habits away, empty the refrigerator, empty the pantry, start fresh. That is too much to ask of ourselves.
Yeah.
But going back to the episodes that we did on the swarms of behavior model, I think it was earlier in 2022, we did episodes about really taking stock of where you are right now. So go back and troubleshoot those unhelpful habits that have snuck back in. What is making it hard for you to hit your goals right now? Oh yeah, I've been drinking on weekdays and I wasn't.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm getting takeout much more often. I'm not measuring. Look at all of the different ways that you're making it hard on yourself to hit your goals. And from that, decide which one you are ready to work on.
And I would say, it is not only important to not overwhelm yourself with trying to fix it all at once. I think it's a bad idea to even try to fix all of it all at once. I think, we've done episodes about, coming in hot, about trying to, immediately jump into a perfect exercise plan, going to a gym 7 days a week and dropping your calories to 1,200 a day. And the burnout factor on those sorts of plans is real. And it's almost impossible for people to sustain when you go to that extreme and you go to that extreme that fast. Like my daily step goal is 20,000 steps on my Fitbit. When I started, 5,000 seemed virtually impossible. And I didn't get to the point where I was doing 20,000 steps most days. And I don't even hit that goal every day. I hit it as often as I can, but that was overwhelming. And there was no way I was going to go from, overnight from nothing to 20,000 steps. I had to gently increase. And what I'm saying is that you should gently increase all of these things. Don't try to go from 0 to perfect overnight, but ask yourself, like, what habits can I do right now? And then when you get to a point where you can do more than that, then you do more.
Yeah, totally. I mean, one of the hardest things for me to confront, I guess, was that my step goal used to be 17,000 steps. And then I reduced it to 14, which was reasonable. And I was hitting it quite often. But this summer, I have not hit my 14,000 step goal count for, most of the summer. And meeting myself where I am in this season, I just kept feeling bad every time I would not hit my goal. And it was defeating, and it just compounded itself. So last week, when I kind of decided I was going to, come back to focusing on my health, is I reduced my step goal to 9,000. And it felt really hard. It was like, 9,000, like what kind of a person does that? It feels so much better to hit that 9,000 and celebrate it, which I actually do. Like my watch goes, bzz, 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 what sounds Fitbits make. But now I'm like, ooh, I hit my step goal. And at some point, I might get to the point where hitting 11 might work for me. And building that up over time gradually, it matters. It matters to feeling good about yourself. And again, if you are not tracking right now, the first thing to do is not say you're going to have 1,200 calories. Maybe the first step is just get back into the habit of tracking, which is what I did after I didn't track for I didn't track almost all of July and August. Ha ha ha. Guess who gained weight? I don't know. But like
you already gave them the answer to that.
But like I know this from the past. When I don't track, my portions get bigger, and also I gain weight. So it's no surprise. But maybe the first step isn't to go into deficit, it's just to track. Then after that, maybe it's to hit a maintenance calorie range. And once that feels doable, work on a deficit a few days a week and dial it back until you're at the point where you're sort of cruising at a comfortable level. But doing that like extreme, fat blast, 5 days, lose 20 pounds to get back on track. For me, that hasn't worked. Maybe it would work for someone else, but going back into it in a kind way feels a lot better than shaming myself into extreme habits that I had, not extreme, but like high level habits that I had 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah. And, along that same theme, we just had our episodes with Catherine Sanders, where she talked about, people getting bored with habits, and her focus was on people with ADHD. But just in general, I think people get bored with particular habits, and sometimes you need to. The term she used was re-sparkleize those habits and add a little like glitter and glitz, do something different. We've done some episodes about the hedonic treadmill, about that tendency of like, you buy something new and it's great for a while, and then after a few years go by, you need something new again just to reinvigorate the space or whatever we're talking about. And, maybe it's time to try a different method of tracking your food. Maybe it's time to try a different exercise. Maybe it's, time to mix up your route on your walk or your run. Maybe it's time to swim in a different place. Maybe, now it's time to play basketball.
I knew you were going to say basketball. I knew it.
I don't know why I go to basketball.
I'm sorry. That was jerky. Yeah. I was like, he's going to say basketball.
But maybe it's time to try something, maybe it's time to try, Pilates instead of yoga. Like, I don't know. Maybe it could be anything. Just, something to mix it up and refresh your habit to make it more exciting and interesting to you.
Yeah. And I think when we tie our success to a particular plan, it's, well, I do Weight Watchers. Oh no, I don't like Weight Watchers now. We identify as a person who does Weight Watchers. When we change and identify as I am a healthy person, I am a fit person, and a fit person adapts. It's not just, oh gosh, now I can't run, because my hips have been, I think that the doctor called it janky. I have janky hips now.
Janky hips. Yeah, no, that's a medical term.
Yeah.
But we also know that your hips don't lie.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't. And right now they're not super happy with me.
Yeah, no, they're screaming.
They are. But I used to swim lots of laps, but right now I'm meeting myself where I am, and I'm just doing some hip physical therapy in the pool. And it's not ideal. It's not my peak, whatever, but it actually feels good just to get in the water and to get something done. And I'm celebrating those small wins rather than beating myself up for not being where I was a few years ago. And I love what Donald said about that re-sparkleizing. Use a different app, go in a different direction, track on paper, just track what you're eating, not even tracking calories, just write some things down. It matters to just get yourself back in the mindset and take those small sustainable steps for this season. We have so many unexpected things coming up. I had a family situation come up yesterday that's been on my mind. So things are going to keep coming up and getting in the way of those ideal habits. And we can't base our lives on those ideal, perfect days where everything went well. And a quote that I heard earlier this week that I wanted to get out there is, you can question yourself, but don't doubt yourself. And that really hit me because
there's a big difference between those two things.
Because when you doubt yourself, like, oh, I'm just not made for this. What are you not made for? You're not made for eating off of a smaller plate. You're not made for not drinking every day. We can take those small steps toward health that matter. And I like to think about it as a dip in the stock market. When you are investing in yourself over years and years and years, right now, I have not looked at our investments since January because I know that there has been a dip in the stock market.
Right.
But Donald hopes that I live for 75 more years or
so. Sure. Yeah, exactly.
But I don't plan on retiring my health for decades.
Right.
And so a dip in my health market over the summer isn't like, okay, well, now the next 30 years are doomed. It was a blip. It was a season. And I have the opportunity to start self-adjusting and getting myself back on course.
I really like that as a euphemism for passing away. Like, I'm sorry, but she's retired her health.
It's like consciously uncoupled from my
that's right.
from my health. But it really is as simple as that. We overcomplicate it thinking that we carry all these ideas in our heads of what we could be doing, and then we're losing any traction that we have on just doing something. Starting, for me, not drinking during the week mattered. And this week I've started doing a 5-minute walk in the morning, and it matters. And day by day, I actually posted a picture in Wolt Place of my first day walking, and I could not even muster a smile. You know, those like when you tell kids to smile and they just kind of like bare their teeth.
Yeah.
I couldn't even do that. But then by Friday, I had an actual smile on my face because I was building that consistency and looking forward to that small 5-minute walk. And it takes, a small amount of time to start feeling good about the progress that you're making. And starting with those small sustainable steps matters. So don't get discouraged by this season. Recognize what might have fallen away, what canaries have gone to the choir invisible.
Yes. The canaries that have retired their health.
Yes. And decide which ones you want to foster again. Start where you are. And I'm starting where I am. And look, I don't know where any of this is going to take us. Like we have said it from the start, we're not fixed, we're not perfect, and we're adapting.
And we only look thin.
Yeah. And right now, that's questionable for me a little bit. But we're just moving forward. And I don't know if it's inspiring or not, but these are our actual lives. And this is my job. Like my job is my health.
Yeah.
And remembering that I can do as much as I can do is, that's where I am right now. So hopefully you have found this inspiring.
Absolutely. And look, we've done multiple episodes about, in air quotes, starting over and about dealing with weight regain and about the erosion of habits. And I will link to a bunch of them in the show notes. All of our episodes are still available wherever you found this one. And we really appreciate you listening. We are grateful to each and every one of you. And how about this for a smooth transition? Our episodes are all available also on our website at any time at weonlylookthin.com.
Yep. And if you are at weonlylookthin.com, click on that link for join our support group to find out more about Wolt Place, We Only Look Thin Place. It's a Facebook-based accountability and support group based on Facebook, which I already just said.
Yes. It is based on Facebook and based there also.
I wonder if we should have a satellite MySpace. No, I don't think.
The MySpace group.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
The AOL.
Is MySpace even a thing? I don't even know.
I'm not even sure.
Yeah.
But we have 2 subscription options, a monthly option with a 3-day complimentary trial and a 3-month subscription with a 7-day complimentary trial to see if Wolt Place is right for you. We are not a weight loss plan. We are not going to dole out advice on what plan to follow. We have many people doing Weight Watchers. We've got people doing intermittent fasting, all the other things, calorie counting, intuitive eating. I'll just keep naming things.
Yeah.
So it really is a great place for support and accountability and fellowship on this journey that can be kind of like hard and embarrassing and overwhelming at times. So
yeah,
I'm super proud of it. And so you can find out more by going there.
Absolutely. And if you'd like to interact with us in other ways, you can find us on social media at We Only Look Thin on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can also reach out to us with a rickety old email, weonlylookthin@gmail.com. We appreciate your episode suggestions. We love your feedback and especially compliments, especially positive feedback. And we will also answer questions. weonlylookthin@gmail.com.
Yep. And if you are feeling a little bit generous today, if you could head over to Apple Podcast and leave us a rating and a review, it would really help. I really do read all of the comments, and I wish I could individually reply on Apple Podcast to each of them, because it's just so wonderful to know that we still are getting new listeners and longtime listeners giving us feedback, and that we're a part of your journey really does matter to us. So if you can leave us a 5-star review and a comment, it helps other people find our podcast, which grows our audience, which is super duper awesome.
Yeah, the more ratings and reviews that you have on Apple Podcasts, the more likely your podcast is to show up on search results when people are looking for health and fitness podcasts, and we would appreciate you doing that. And another thing we would appreciate you doing is just telling somebody about our show. Word of mouth is also a great way for this show to grow, and we are grateful if you just say, hey, I heard a great podcast, or I've got a great podcast that you might be interested in. Tell a friend, a loved one, a coworker, a stranger on an elevator.
Even a foe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Get your enemies on board, too, because an enemy is just a friend you haven't made yet, or as they say. So if you could do that, we would be grateful.
Yep. So if you're still not sure if I took a Sumspringa or a Rumsumma, just remember that Donald and I are still an inspiration.
The information that you hear on this podcast is for informational purposes only. The hosts are not medical professionals. You should always consult with your doctor, nurse, or other certified health professional before beginning any diet or fitness program.